Alright, hello and welcome to Motley Gaming, and this is going to be the Gman Div 4 and Div 5 kind of mid-season recap review show, if you like. And we're just going to take a look at where all of our Brave teams have landed here after Week 7, and kind of take a look as well to what's coming on. What's coming ahead for each of the divisions. We really want to see, like how things are going to shake up in the last few weeks. So excited to jump into it. Welcome back. Sorry for the delay in putting out videos, but I am back. I am ready to put these out again, and let's just go ahead and jump into it. We've got, we're starting out with Gman Div 5, and this is a very interesting division. My early pick that I thought was going to do well this season has seemed to pan out, at least for now. I picked Drop Dead Gorgeous to win the division in the very beginning. And so far, CrowDog09 has not disappointed. That being said, there's still plenty of time for really most of the teams to get a shot at winning the div. Looking here, you've got 4 teams with a pretty decent chance. You've got the 2 kind of top contenders. You've got CrowDog09's Drop Dead Gorgeous, and you've got General Marauders, Bane of the Living, both at 6-1-0. That's pretty damn good as far as the record goes, both undefeated. And then you've got Dead Game, and is this a furry team coached by Maisie and the Nick Dude, following up. And then you've also got a few teams with kind of an outside chance. You've got Tato Scones, Innsmouth Inchworms, Ilgoth's Bayerick Bricklayers, and Lava Jackals, the Preston Penguins, all with an outside chance. Probably not going to win the div, any of these 3 teams, but they definitely have a shot, and it's especially impressive considering that Lava Jackals, Preston Penguins came in the 3rd week, I believe it was, so automatically had 2 losses against them. So, coming in with fresh humans against some more, slightly more developed teams is always going to be tough, and they've managed to go respectable 3 wins and 2 losses with them. So, definitely keep an eye on them. They, if they win out, they have a chance. Same with the Bayerick Bricklayers and the Innsmouth Inchworms. Let's go ahead and take a look at the teams that are really kind of running the show in the division so far. So first, Drop Dead Gorgeous, looking pretty strong. A nice level of development on a bunch of players, rather than just all on the werewolves, which can be a bit of an issue. Also has a bit of a bank, so should probably spend that unless he's going for... I'm curious if... CrowDog is planning on purchasing, stadium upgrades and stuff like that, because he could definitely do that. Oops. Darn Blood Bowl 2 menus. Okay. Then let's look at Bane of the Living, General Marauders, Undead Team. And they're looking pretty strong as well. He's got a block mummy, which is always great. Guard on the other mummy, which is kind of expected. And then he's got 1 killer white and 1 support white. That's the way I like to build my teams. An interesting pickup here with sprint on a ghoul, and I don't necessarily hate it. One of the things that can really be tough for, all of the regen teams is, like being able to get your players to the far ends of the pitch to catch, those pesky elves or what have you. And so getting sprint is almost like giving Spine Collector, movement 9 almost. So I really, or not sprint, sure feet. Excuse me, sure feet. So giving Spine Collector the sure feet is kind of nice, and I really, really don't necessarily hate it. You've got blodge up on all the ghouls, in fact. So tough to get these down. I would expect to see sure hands on one of them. And I don't know what the plans are for possibly getting a fourth ghoul or not. I mean, always risky because that's another piece that doesn't have regen, but it's also a piece that can get blodge really easy. So, kind of an interesting predicament to be in. So we've got that. Then we've got Maisie's Dead Game and the Nick Dudes. Is this a furry team following up? Dead Game, Camry, that's right. And pretty interesting development. Got 15 players, so I'd imagine is pretty much fouling at every possible opportunity. And other than that, has 2 Tomb Guardians leveled up, one that's just waiting for an MVP. Leader on the throw rod to trim that team value because those rerolls are not cheap. Got the Hail Mary pass on the throw rod for those desperation plays, I suppose. And both Blitzeros have leveled, so that's really quite nice. And really just kind of a bashy squad, all in all. Just really wants to tie up just about every player of the other team and then foul the crap out of any players that they can get down. And I certainly do not disapprove of that as a tactic, the fouling. So next we've got Is This a Furry Team? The other necromantic team. And one moment. Alright, we've got Big Boss, which, plus agi werewolves seem to be a thing in Gman, I suppose. Claus OP has an injury, just a miss next game, so not the worst, but that, that always hurts to have a 140k team value missing a game. And then you've got your ball-carrying ghoul. He looks like he's working on... looks like he's working on getting an MVP or maybe, or just 5 SPP in any way on Cyanide. Please give regen. I love the name, by the way. Excellently named. And then... yeah, got some development going on. This Flesh Golem is not nearly as... his Flesh Golems aren't nearly as developed as Drop Dead Gorjuice Crow Dogs are. But all that plus agi is certainly not hurting with the white and the werewolf. Be interesting to see how that goes. So that kind of rounds out the top 4 of the leaderboard. They're all looking pretty strong, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot of, jumping up and down the standings. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at kind of the matches to keep an eye on for the rest of the season. I've taken note. So, taking a quick look, Week 8, this week, I think the match to watch is really going to be Bane of the Living versus Dead Game. That's huge. They're both so tight in the standings, but there's really, 2 big matches to look at in this division. Bane of the Living versus Dead Game and Drop Dead Gorgeous versus Is This a Furry Team. So you've got all the regen teams at the top, and you've got Undead versus Khemri and Necro versus Necro. always interesting to see the mirror matchups. I think this is really unfortunate for Is This a Furry team since they're missing one of their werewolves. That is really tough. And Drop Dead Gorgeous, I believe, is at full strength. Let me just double check that. Yeah, at full strength, got the dodge plus edgy werewolf. I think the edge is definitely going the way of Drop Dead Gorgeous, but that's the thing with bash matchups is sometimes a lucky removal could just completely turn the matchup on its head. If one player loses a werewolf or loses one of their flesh golems, if they lose a werewolf, then their ball handling and their movement is going to be significantly hampered. If they lose a flesh golem, then their ability to kind of stand in a spot and keep the other team in front of them is going to be hampered as well. So that's going to be really interesting to see. Let's go ahead and take a look at week 9 going forward. And for this one, I'd have to say the match to look at is probably going to be Drop Dead Gorgeous versus Bane of the Living. That's huge. You've got the two top teams duking it out, not this week, but next week. That's going to be exciting. Definitely a match to keep an eye on, and I would expect whoever comes out ahead to probably win the division. Crazier things have happened, so maybe they'll both just murder each other's teams and then leave an opening for the other players to charge up the standings. Next up, week 10. Kind of my pick for game of the week, and this could of course change as the weeks develop, as we see the standings move up and down, but I think that Dead Game versus Is This a Furry team is going to be kind of the pick, and we really are spoiled. We've got a bunch of these top 4 teams in the Div in Div 5 playing against each other in the next 3 weeks, so I think these next 3 weeks are really going to show us kind of separate the cream from the crop. So that's going to be really interesting. Next up, we've got week 11. I'm picking Drop Dead Gorgeous versus the Preston Penguins. We may not have a ton of marquee matchups this week, but I'm really excited to see how this shapes up. The Preston Penguins are 3-0-2 since joining, and their only 2 losses have been against two of the top 4 teams. So I'd be interested to see if they have a chance to play spoiler. Could possibly wreck Crow Dog's hopes and dreams. So good luck to the Preston Penguins on that, and also I've been impressed with their performance so far, so I think that's probably going to be a really good matchup. Day 12, my pick was Is This a Furry team versus Bane of the Living? Another top matchup. And if Drop Dead Gorgeous versus Bane of the Living, their week 9 matchup turns out to be kind of a batch fest, and they manage to hamper each other's teams enough, I could imagine Is This a Furry team getting a chance to charge up the standings. Same with Dead Game. So I think this might be a chance for Is This a Furry team to play spoiler once again. And then finally, week 13. This is just me kind of going back to who I think is probably going to be at the top of the division, and this is going to be kind of I picked Crow Dog to win the division at the beginning. I think he's got the best chance of it. So the final day, I think Drop Dead Gorgeous versus Innsmouth Inchworms is the match to watch. There's enough teams close together at the top to where this match might mean something. And if it does, then Drop Dead Gorgeous has better hope to win it, and that's going to be tough against a solid Nurgle squad that's middle of the table and looking to make moves. So, yeah, Tatoscone, good luck in that last game. Maybe you can have the chance to ruin Crow Dog's hopes and dreams, which is really what Blood Bowl is all about. So moving on to Div 4, let's take a quick look there. Kind of a similar setup. The top two teams of this division are not quite so neck and neck. You've got Bobby Bintang's Darkstar Second Liners at 6-1-0, and Zinj's Seven Circles at 5-1-1. But really, with this division, you do kind of have those top four teams who all have a legitimate chance at that playoff spot. And then you've got a bunch of kind of outside chances, all the way down to, I'd say, 7th. Technically, I believe Rockomotive Gid Stompers have a slight chance if they win out and Darkstar Second Landers don't. But that's gonna be tough. That's a tough ask of anything. I think Darkstar Second Liners would probably have to lose all the rest of their games, or only win one more game, something like that. And I just don't really see that happening. That being said, you've got a bunch of teams in the lower half of the division who have, definitely played well, definitely fought hard, and they still have a chance to kind of spoil things for the upper teams and get some development in as well. So that's going to be really interesting to see, most definitely. So yeah, you've got Bobby Bintang at the top. Then you've got Zinj with 7 Circles following up close behind. Then Palmu Society of Dead Poets with Kembri right on Zinj's heels. And then Dangerous Lizards coached by Naufel right behind Palmu. So that's quite a close matchup. Very close standings going into the final 6 weeks. And let's take a look at the top teams in the division. I'm just going to probably do the top 4, I think. So Darkstar Second Liners, not too much new to see here. You've got that Agi 5 Wrestle Witch Elf, quite the ball hawk there. That's so scary to deal with. And this is really a team that can hit you from a bunch of different directions. So you've got the plus Agi, so the Witch Elf has a decent chance of dodging into a cage and taking out the ball carrier. Then you've also got the Leap Wrestle Lineman, so he can pull off some kind of slan bullshit. And that is really exciting to see. So even if the opponent cages up, this guy, Searlord, can just kind of leap in and have a go at the ball carrier as well. So definitely scary for opposing coaches, and there's a reason. This is just a really well-built elf team, and there's a reason they're at the top of the division. Also, the Blodge Mighty Blow Wither, always nice to get those doubles. So, really good, and a really well-built Dark Elf team. Looking up next, let's take a look at Zinj's Chaos. They're developing on pretty decently. All of the Chaos Warriors have at least 1 level. That is awesome. I expect Air, the Chaos Warrior, Mighty Blow Claw, that's always going to be scary. This is kind of his early kill piece. And then I'd expect kind of his Chaos Warriors to... start moving the way of big roadblocks and getting his more mobile beastmen the role of getting at least one Beastman the role of killer. And really, he's got a ton of Beastmen ready to level. 2 at 5 SPP, 3 at 3 SPP. So touchdown or pass, any of that SPP that he can get, you should really start seeing the Chaos Team's development accelerating from here. And then, of course, you can't miss the block Minotaur. Always a risk to start out with a Minotaur, but it's also really fun. So getting those doubles to start with is going to be scary as hell. Yeah, going to be tough. Going to be tough to handle. Then rounding out the top 4, we have the Society of Dead Poets and Dangerous Lizards. So Society of Dead Poets, to block or not to block, there is no question. Very interesting Khemri team. You've got the Blodge Thrower, which is awesome. He's definitely worth his weight in gold. Also got the backup Thrower, just in case. Always nice to have. And building Khemri teams the way I like to see it built. Dirty Player. Give him that Dirty Player. That's always going to be great. He's even putting Wrestle on one of his skeletons to see if he can get players down in order to stick the boot in against valuable opposing players. Just really great 2 level ups on 2 of his Tomb Guardians, and a couple of Tomb Guardians just 1 SPP away from leveling as well. So this team is developing along nicely. Nothing too unexpected besides the Blodge Thrower, but yeah, it's looking pretty good. And then finally rounding it out, we've got Dangerous Lizards. And they've developed decently. Big setback in the fact that I believe Dilophosaurus the First died and had a block as a level up. So that's always going to be painful. Source level ups come incredibly slow. And it's always tough, to say the least. But this is really nice to see. The plus Agi Surefeed Skink. That skink you can pretty much, you can kind of treat like having movement value 10 almost. And you've got a plus movement skink, so he's going to be with, what is it, 2 pushes? Yeah, 2 pushes. Deinonychus can get the 1-turn touchdown. That's always going to be scary. And then the sidestep diving tackle skink. Just annoying as hell to deal with. So yeah, really tough looking team. It is unfortunate that each of these Sorai that are unleveled and unskilled have 0 SPP. It's going to be a bit of a grind to get that up. 4 team rerolls, that's a little more that I generally love to take, especially since he's got the plus Agi skink. That skink is going to be a nightmare to stop, and picking up the ball on a 2+, you don't typically have to reroll that quite so much. But then again, I don't necessarily hate the 4 rerolls, especially if you really feel you need them. And that kind of rounds out the top 4 of Div 4. And let's take a look at my picks for kind of the games of the week going forward. Once again, this might shift. These, as we see the results come in, it'll be interesting to see. Week 8, my pick was 7 Circles versus the Society of Dead Poets. We've got 2 top 4 teams going at it. Keep an eye on Darkstar Second Lions versus Kurotora. Kurotora is a pretty nasty necromantic team, and they could do some serious damage to Darkstar Second Liners. and that's kind of what the other coaches really need to be hoping for, that Dark Star Second Liners have some key pieces out when they face their team. So Seven Circles versus Society of Dead Poets, though, probably the game of the week, because Society of Dead Poets are trying to hold on to that chance to steal away the top spot, and Seven Circles are trying to stay neck and neck with Dark Star Second Liners. So that should just be a really fun match to watch, and if you get a chance, I'd highly recommend it. Next up, Week 9. We've kind of got two matches to look at. Dangerous Lizards versus Society of Dead Poets. And this is really the nice thing about these two divisions, Division 4 and Division 5, is you really seem to see all the top 4 teams haven't really faced each other yet, for the most part. So the teams that really have a chance to get that playoff spot are all just duking it out, and it should be so much fun to watch. Dangerous Lizards versus Society of Dead Poets. So Society, our Khemri team, has 2 tough matchups in a row. That's going to be a tough ask, but Dangerous Lizards also, not an easy match against Khemri, especially a Khemri that has really started to develop quite nicely. And then also, No Doubt in Failure versus Dark Star Second Liners. Once again, No Doubt in Failure has all the tools to really put the hurting on our Dark Elf team. And No Doubt in Failure, developed pretty well, and they're also have an outside chance of moving up the table, possibly getting that first spot, although I don't find it likely. But they could definitely play spoiler in this matchup, especially if they can get some heavy removals on the Dark Elf team. So, tough 2 weeks for Bobby Bintang. We'll have to see how those Dark Elves do and how they hold up. Moving on to Day 10. My pick for this week, Dark Star Second Liners versus Seven Circles. The 2 top teams at this moment will be going at it on Day 10, and this could very well decide the division. It may not if DSL or Seven Circles, get unlucky or have a rough week. The door is definitely open for a bunch of these other teams to get a chance at getting to the top of the division. And it'll be really interesting to see. It really will. Then we've got Week 12, which I've got as... my pick is probably... oh no, this is 11. My apologies. Getting ahead of myself. Another top 4 matchup, Dark Star Second Liners versus Society of Dead Poets. It's going to be interesting. Bobby Bintang, the more I look at it, I didn't realize how tough of a road these Dark Elves have to make it to the end of the division. They're playing a lot of heavy bash teams, a lot of teams that could really cripple their team. So if the Dark Elves manage to survive with most of their players intact, they should be fine. But if not, there's plenty of room for our other teams to make a charge up the standings. Day 12, we've got Dark Star Second Liners versus Dangerous Lizards. That's going to be a great matchup. My goodness. These kind of marquee matchups are just coming in week over week. It's going to be really excited to see. I'm really excited to see how these divisions shake up. I can't wait to see what surprises are in store. And then I'd also... we've got 2 kind of middle-of-the-table teams who have done pretty well for themselves. Kurotor versus Pimpleford or Drink Air. I think that's also going to be a great matchup to look at. Um, and then finally, day 13, we've got, I think the final matchup is going to be, to take a look at, is going to be Koratora versus Seven Circles. That and probably Society of Dead Poets versus Erwindor's Chance. All of those teams are, decently solid. Excuse me. And I think if the Dark Elves stumble at any point, this is going to be Seven Circles' chance to take the top spot in the division. That being said, they've got their work cut out for them. Koratora's been a tough matchup all season. Definitely has put the hurting on a few teams so far. And also, Koratora has a chance, an unlikely chance, but a chance to make it to the top of the division. So I'd be interested to see if they do indeed manage to make a charge up the standings, and Seven Circles is just their last team in their way. Society of Dead Poets going up against Nurgle, which can be, I'd say, maybe a bit of a counter, sort of. Regen teams versus regen. And then you've got also another one of our top 4 teams. You've got Dangerous Lizards versus Rockomotive Gid Stompers. The Gid Stompers have been a solid team this season, earning a lot of results, if not necessarily a ton of wins. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm looking forward to it. And hopefully, some surprises come along and upset some of my expectations. That's what I love about Blood Bowl, and that's why it's been so much fun following these divisions so far. So good luck to all the coaches in Div 4 and Div 5. Really looking forward to seeing how this goes, and good luck going forward. Yeah, this is Motley. See you next time.